There are a bunch of intriguing storylines for the Pittsburgh Steelers as we approach the 2024 offseason, but perhaps the most intriguing, at least to me, is what the Steelers will do at the quarterback position. So today, I have compiled a list of the top 10 realistic quarterback targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers to potentially pursue this offseason if they decide to move on from Kenny Pickett or bring in a veteran to compete with him for the 2024 season. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about today on Steelers Talk. Before we get into that, make sure you click that subscribe button and help us beat Seahawks today in this week's sub battle. Here at Steelers Talk, we have never lost a sub battle ever. We are not starting now, especially to the frickin' Seahawks. We're down 4 right now, starting to get down the home stretch here. Let's put up a big number of subscribers added on today's video so the Seahawks and their crew cannot come back. So now I want you guys to keep this in mind before I get into my top 10 list here, is that I'm only going to be including realistic names that A, the Steelers could actually potentially get, and B, the Steelers can actually afford their contracts. So we're not going to be talking about some of these names that are thrown around Steelers Twitter like Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, and Geno Smith. These guys are going to be way too expensive for the Pittsburgh Steelers and or are just going to be straight up ungettable for them for various reasons, whether that be the team is not going to trade them, the player won't want to come to Pittsburgh, for a bevy of reasons. I know that you guys might be talking about these guys in the comments because you're not going to see them today, so I just wanted to hit that on the head here to start today's show. You will not be seeing these 4 quarterback names on my list. And also, keep in mind that I'm not the biggest fan of drafting a quarterback early in this year's draft class. I know that there's a lot of good quarterback prospects, but I think with the state of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, with T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Warren, all these guys that they got on their roster now, I think that they're a quarterback and an offensive play caller away from becoming legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And you just don't draft a rookie quarterback if you're looking to win now. I think the Steelers are going to have a win-now focus heading into the 2024 offseason. So I think they're going to try to win. They're not going to be trying to rebuild. So although they might draft a quarterback in the middle to late rounds, you're not going to see any rookie draft prospects on today's list either. So what say you guys down there in the comment section? Let me know what you guys think the Steelers should do at the quarterback position. Do you think they should just straight up replace Kenny Pickett, type R? If you think they should just start Kenny Pickett and name him the starter for next season, not get anyone to compete with him, type S. Or if you want to bring in a veteran to compete with Kenny Pickett for the starting job next year, type C for competition down there in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. And with that, let's get into my list here, starting with number 10, and that's Ryan Tannehill. Now, I know I can already hear your groans, all right? Oh, Ryan Tannehill made the list, and these numbers are why you're groaning, all right? I understand that Ryan Tannehill's numbers have definitely decreased exponentially since 2020 when he really earned a big-time starting role there with the Tennessee Titans, coming in for Marcus Mariota, threw 33 touchdowns that year, 7 interceptions, and a 90-plus Pro Football Focus grade. Absolutely fantastic season there. 2021, the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Still had a really good season, but the last 2 years, especially here in 2023, has just not been good. Just 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and not a very good Pro Football Focus grade either, and that's why he's number 10 on this list, not number 1, okay? So keep that in mind. Tannehill isn't an elite option for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but if he's somebody that comes in to be a true backup option, and if Kenny Pickett stinks next year as the true starter, you could potentially see Ryan Tannehill coming in and maybe doing what he did in 2020 with the Tennessee Titans, coming in and really being a good option as a backup for the Pittsburgh Steelers if Kenny Pickett doesn't work out in the new offensive coordinator's scheme. Now, number 9 on my list, this is another one, guys, where you're going to be groaning at me here, but Mac Jones. And listen, Jones has had a terrible season with the New England Patriots this year. Admittedly, this one isn't a great option either if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're looking to replace Kenny Pickett. But I think if you bring in Mac Jones, it would be a pretty decent option as a potential backup or maybe even to compete in camp. Now, in 2023, under Bill O'Brien's scheme, he has just not been good. He's completely lost his confidence. He's lost his accuracy that he had his rookie season. This year, just 64.9 completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Yikes, for a Pro Football Focus grade of 52.2. Now, I'm only considering bringing in Mac Jones if the Steelers bring in a Shanahan-style offense. Now, if you'll remember back in the draft process there, in Mac Jones's draft year, people were talking about the San Francisco 49ers potentially drafting him instead of Trey Lance because he is such a fit for the Shanahan-style system. He's got good footwork. At the time, he had good accuracy. He's got good mental processing ability. All the things that these Shanahan guys like, Mac Jones has as well. So if you bring in a guy like Zach Robinson, the quarterback's coach for LA, or like a Darrell Bevell, quarterback's coach for the Miami Dolphins, I think that Mac Jones is somebody that they would consider because you look at these numbers here, his rookie season, he showed a lot of promise, guys. He led that New England Patriots team to the playoffs, all right, with a 67.6 completion percentage, over 220 yards per game, 22 touchdowns. The interceptions were still there at 13, but the Pro Football Focus grade was at a very solid 80. He showed a lot of promise as a rookie, and I think next year he's going to end up somewhere with a Shanahan-style system, no matter where he ends up. If the Steelers end up signing an offensive coordinator from that way of thinking, from the offensive side of the ball, I could certainly see Mac Jones being a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2023 and a very affordable option at that. Now, coming up here, I got more Steelers quarterback targets to break down with you guys. But before I get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want to spice up your game days this NFL season, just 2 weeks left to go before playoffs, you can get started with PrizePicks today, which is a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. And here's how you play. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and if you know ball, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So let's take a look at my entry for this weekend's game against the Seahawks. I'm taking the less on Geno Smith passing yards, the more on George Pickens receiving yards, and the less on DK Metcalf receiving yards. You can check it out now and get your picks in before Sunday's matchup by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With PrizePicks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So what are you guys waiting for? Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Number 8 on my list, somebody that might be playing in the playoffs this year for the Indianapolis Colts, Gardner Minshew. And, of course, Omar Khan, we know the GM here in Pittsburgh, has connections to the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Minshew was the backup quarterback there in Philly last season. And this year he follows Shane Steichen, the former Philly offensive coordinator, to Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson, their top draft pick, gets hurt. And here we are. Gardner Minshew currently has the Colts in position to make the playoffs. I believe they're the number 7 spot in the AFC playoff picture right now. Now, Minshew is okay, all right? He's not going to completely light up the world or anything like that. He's a very solid, decent backup-level quarterback, in my opinion. But if you're bringing back Kenny Pickett next year and you're giving him a shot to be your starter next year, Gardner Minshew's the type of guy that you can say, hey, man, you can come here, you can come in. And especially if they bring in like Philadelphia's quarterback's coach as their next OC or something like that, this could be a good fit here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially as an option that can come in if Kenny Pickett struggles in 2024. Now, this one might throw some people for a loop here, but number 7, I got the Cincinnati Bengals backup quarterback Jake Browning here because, plain and simply, Browning, outside of the games where he's played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, has actually played pretty well. I mean, these numbers are pretty impressive as we speak, but if you take away the Pittsburgh Steelers games, these numbers get even better. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year when he's not playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So keep that in mind. Browning has done a really good job in relief of Joe Burrow, throwing to guys like Jamar Chase, who's injured now, T. Higgins, all these different guys. He's very solid, man. He plays with good footwork. He's very accurate. He can get through a full field progression read. Jake Browning, very solid option, again, if you're looking for somebody that you want to come in, be a solid veteran, maybe compete with Pickett a little bit for the starting job next year, and somebody that's got experience on an NFL field as a starter for a playoff team playing very meaningful football. Now, number 6 on my list, Teddy Bridgewater has not been a starting quarterback in this league for a while, but he's a very solid veteran quarterback that's capable of starting. He's shown multiple times throughout his career that he's capable of coming in as a backup, and a really, really good one at that. I think with the Steelers, with the way their defense plays, with the way that with the way their wide receivers are going to be, I think George Pickens takes even another step next year. I think Teddy Bridgewater could absolutely step into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania next year and be a very solid starting quarterback that can win football games for Pittsburgh right away. Now, this one, I think that I'm going to get some people that really like this one and some people that really don't like this one, and it's Sam Darnold, the backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers at number 5. Now, why do I think this? Now, Sam Darnold this year, the numbers have been okay. He's come in a couple of times in relief for Brock Purdy, but in 2022, Sam Darnold was absolutely fantastic for the Carolina Panthers. He almost got that team to the playoffs back in 2022, led them on a nice winning streak, and he really showed his ability and the growth that he has shown since playing for the Carolina Panthers, in the year that he was starting, and then the New York Jets to start off his career. I think Sam Darnold has grown a ton as a quarterback, and he could be a diamond in the rough. Now, it's definitely risky. Don't get me wrong. If you bring in Sam Darnold to potentially be a starting quarterback for you, I mean, the interceptions could come back. The poor decision-making could come back. The inaccuracy that he had in the first couple of years of his career could come back. But this guy was one of the most valuable quarterbacks in football when he was the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers at the end of last season. And if you bring him in and Pickett stinks, I mean, this guy could provide, that little spark of lightning that the Steelers are looking for to potentially go on a run. Now, coming up next, my top 4 realistic quarterback targets. These 4 are the guys that I think the Steelers will really take a look at here to potentially bring in and compete or straight up replace Kenny Pickett with next year. But before I get into those guys, make sure you click that thumbs up icon and like today's video. If you're a Steelers Talk Real one, you watch our videos, you do all that great stuff, and you want to help out the channel today, it's 100% free. It takes a half second of your time. I'd really appreciate it if you click that thumbs up icon right now. So we talked about Russell Wilson yesterday, and I said that there's really no way that I want to trade for Russell Wilson. And I still have that take. There's no way I want to trade for Russell Wilson. But the way that I would consider bringing in Russell Wilson at this point is if the Broncos release him, and the reports are saying that they are willing to cut him if need be, then you can sign him for whatever amount that you want to a brand new contract. And if Russell Wilson is willing to come to Pittsburgh on a team-friendly deal, I still think he's a pretty darn good starting quarterback in this league, and I think that this could actually work. Now, the reason why I have these exceptions is because if you trade for Russell Wilson, you're gonna be on the hook for a lot of money, man, plain and simply. Next year, 25.4. It's still too expensive. But it's not that bad. But then it starts ballooning over the last 4 years of his contract, right? It gets up to 54 plus over the next 2 seasons. Then it gets even bigger in 2027 and 2028. So I'm not willing to trade for Russell Wilson under any circumstances. But signing him to a team-friendly deal, I mean, let's face it, guys. Russell Wilson has not been that terrible this year, okay? 66.3 completion percentage. Far from terrible, over 200 yards per game, a nice touchdown to interception ratio, and a decent quarterback rating this year of 97.5. Russell Wilson isn't what he once was in Seattle, but with an elite defense here in Pittsburgh, a good weapons around him, a good running back in Jaylen Warren, hopefully a revamped offensive line, another year of growth on the offensive line. Russell Wilson could still be pretty darn good, guys, and I think that if the Steelers can get him for the right price, I would be willing to entertain the possibility of Russell Wilson coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, number 3 on my list, another guy that I've said on this show that I would not want to see become a Pittsburgh Steeler, but listen, man, I'm starting to come around. Baker Mayfield, although he was a former Cleveland Brown, ever since he was in college, I really just can't stand this guy's personality, but he's the type of guy where if he's on your team, you straight up love him. The stats this year, just straight up fantastic, man. 64.3% completion percentage, almost 240 yards per game, 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Baker Mayfield, especially over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so, has completely showed that he is a legitimate starting quarterback in this league, and he's going to be a starter next year. So I think if you sign Baker Mayfield, I think he's going to be a straight-up replacement for Kenny Pickett. The only thing is I'm not sure Mayfield is going to be available. I think he's probably going to want to re-sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if he gets them to the playoffs, the Buccaneers have no reason to really let him go. All right, number 2 on my list. This is probably my favorite veteran option if you're going to bring in somebody to compete with Kenny Pickett, and that's Jacoby Brissett of the Washington Commanders. He was formerly with the Cleveland Browns back in 2022. And this year, man, Jacoby Brissett has been bloody fantastic. 78% completion percentage. The yards per game, it looks a little bit lower there, but keep in mind that in the 2 games that he's played, he's only played in a quarter per game, all right? He's pretty much been tasked with the fourth quarter duties for both of those games, and he's doing absolutely fantastically, man. Like, the yards per attempt is over a first down per attempt, all right? The touchdowns are great. He's had 5 touchdown drives on 5 drives where he's had a pass attempt. No interceptions so far this year. I don't know why it says 1 there, but the Pro Football Focus grade is 84.6. Really, really good for Jacoby Brissett here in 2023. And then you look at the grade from last year, right? It's just as good. He was a top 15 graded quarterback with the Cleveland Browns. He was way better than Deshaun Watson when he came back from his suspension in 2022. So Jacoby Brissett is absolutely somebody that can handle his business on an NFL field. And if you're bringing in a veteran to really compete with Kenny Pickett, and you really want to light a fire under Kenny Pickett's ass and really have him work as hard as possible this offseason to prove that he's the right guy here in Pittsburgh for the next decade plus, Jacoby Brissett is going to be the type of guy that challenges him. And if Kenny Pickett stinks, you can plug in Brissett, and I think the Steelers can be a playoff team and maybe even win a couple playoff games with a guy like this under center. Now, but my number 1 guy, I know some people are going to hate this take, but I think with the Steelers roster ready to win now, you got to take a swing, guys. You got to be willing to really go for the championship. It's like, what are we doing here, man? We are here to try to win championships. And I think not only is Justin Fields affordable, right? He's still on his rookie contract. I think you can get him from the Bears for like a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. He also has the upside physically and then also on the field to propel this team to championship contention once again. All right, I am sick and tired of wasting T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deontay Johnson, all these guys we have on the roster right now, and Justin Fields is the type of guy that could come in next year and absolutely be fantastic. Let's start with the rushing ability, okay? Last year, points above replacement as a rusher alone. This isn't even taking into account his arm, okay? His rushing points above replacement was higher than any player in the National Football League in 2022 at 47.9. That's more than Josh Jacobs. That's more than Christian McCaffrey. That's more than anybody else in the National Football League. So don't tell me that this guy's legs don't play a huge role in a potential great offense here in Pittsburgh, because it absolutely could. And then, even with just his arm, you can make an argument he's already an upgrade over Kenny Pickett. Now, the completion percentage is a bit low. They're about throwing for about the same amount of yards, air yards per pass attempt. So it seems like Pickett is slightly more accurate, but you look at the total touchdowns, Justin Fields has over 10 more touchdowns than Kenny Pickett in one less game. Of course, the interceptions a little bit more. Kenny's done a really good job at protecting the football, but the points above replacement as a whole for Justin Fields here in 2023 is higher than Kenny Pickett's just as a passer. That's not even taking into account what he brings to the table with his legs. And if you can pair Justin Fields with the right offensive coordinator, with the weapons that he would have at his disposal here, and Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Warren, hopefully a revamped offensive line. Again, I just think that this is the move that could propel the Steelers to Super Bowl caliber once again. And it could do it as soon as next year. Whereas if you get a guy like Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew or, somebody along those lines, it just feels like it's just another stepping stone and you're not really getting the guy that can get you over the top. Now, it's definitely a risk, right? If Justin Fields fails, then it's looking like the Steelers will have to blow it all up, fire Mike Tomlin, start all over. But I would rather really swing for the fences here and try to get a 7th Lombardi trophy than bring in another bridge-type quarterback and just be okay with getting to the divisional round, all right? I want to swing for the fences. I want to go for the grand slam home run here. And if Justin Fields hits and he turns into a superstar player here in Pittsburgh with this defense, this head coach, and the weapons around him, look out, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are the next big thing in the National Football League, and I want to take that risk. All right, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Which quarterback would you like to add to the roster this offseason? Do you want to draft a rookie? Do you want to bring in a veteran? Do you want to trade for Justin Fields and swing for the fences and try to hit that grand slam? Let me know down there in the comment section what you guys think. And, of course, if you disagree, let me know down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me. If you made it to the end of today's video and you're new to the channel, we provide breaking news coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers every time they make a signing, when they hire their new offensive coordinator, if they get a new quarterback this year. We're going to have you covered with a video. We also have in-depth free agency and draft coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers just about every day during the offseason. We have a weekly live show as well as watch parties for every single Steelers game live here on the channel. Those are a lot of fun. And oh yeah, it's all 100% free. So if you love the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's no reason not to take the half second and click that subscribe button right now.